Hi, everybody. It's Rick DiClemente coming to you with Astrology Unplugged. Tonight is 101 session. And tonight, in case you're not used to being with us, we are a chat group on astrology. And 3/4 the time we talk astrology. And about the other fourth the time we have different kinds of guests like people who are psychics or people who do numerology or people who do hypnosis, just different weird things. So tonight we're going back to astrology. If you did not see last week, this is not a matter of self-promotion. Go back and watch on YouTube. Go to Astrology Unplugged 100. That was the 100th anniversary or week anniversary. And that was our guest who was astounding. That was Nick Arandes talking about letting go, what happens when you let go and let God. And he did it in terms of merging it with the higher teachings of A Course in Miracles. But he's very down to earth. If you want to watch any of these shows, watch episode 100. Tonight, we're going to talk about what an astrologer is thinking when he or she says, you're in good shape or you're not in good shape. But first, a couple announcements. Next week will be Liza Jane Brown, my partner, and myself. We will do the whole time with discussions about what Pluto was going to do in 2005 once we met, and we started writing about it, and we started writing articles in 2006, and what we saw was coming, what we predicted, why we thought what we did. We were much more right than we thought. We saw things much more grave than they were, and I just didn't have the nerve to talk about how close to the edge we are. And of course, Pluto went into Capricorn in 2008. We are now 2/3 of the way through, and Pluto will finish up its final third. It's now around 20 degrees of Capricorn. It has about 10 more degrees until it exits Capricorn around 2023 and 24. So Liza and I will be talking about all that and watching how it became more a part of the collective. It became denial, and then it became more accepted, and you still got the fighting going on between whether there's climate change or not. Believe it or not, I guess we'll wait till we all look like a strip of bacon, and then we'll accept it. Anyhow, and then following that, on November 1st, I'm going to have 4 very good friends of mine that really fit the bill here. We're going to talk about Eris. She's the new planet beyond Pluto, and she is kicking buttola. She's the one about the Me Too and the feminine rising again. And we will be talking with Gina Mazza, who does all kind of stuff, and she was my editor on my book, talking with Melody Winery, who is a member of this group and an astrologer out of California, talking with Alicia Franzek, who is involved in all kind of women's issues. And we used to be on different spiritual teams here in Pittsburgh years ago. And then there will be Linda Platt, who's one of my students. She is an English professor at a local college. And these 4 have really good looks at what Eris is doing. And I'm studying and learning, but I think mostly I'm going to be sitting back and listening. So that's coming on November 1st. Tonight I want to talk to you about what happens when you leave my office or my home or my reading online and I say to you, you're in good shape. And most of my readings, I say that. And there are a couple people I don't say that. And I'm not trying to be a God judge here, but I'm talking astrologically. You're in good shape if. And by listening very closely tonight, I think you'll get an understanding. The other day, I had a woman here I was reading for, and she left, and I thought she was in very good shape. She had some difficulties. She had some questions in her marriage, but the reason she's in good shape is because she's aware of it. She's talking about it. She's bringing it up. She's not hiding from it. And a lot of times that's a really good, healthy thing to do rather than put your head in the sand. But most of the time, what I'm talking about when somebody is in good shape. I don't know how it works, but I believe the Holy Spirit sends people to me. I don't mean I'm special, because he sends people to all kinds of healers. But I do think that through my 40 years, my clientele have become better. They have become more ready mentally, psychically. They're not like the old days. Hey, read my chart, man. Hey, read my chart. You know, give me the kicks. Well, in the early days when you're just figuring things out, that's pretty common. But now it doesn't happen very much. It doesn't happen much at all. In the old days, I would have a lot of charts, and I'd say, I just couldn't figure that one out. Couldn't do it. And now that doesn't happen very often, thank God. And I also think I'm getting help. And I appreciate that. So the reason this woman in particular was doing well, she was undergoing some rather significant Pluto things. What was she doing? She was cleaning up her space. She was cleaning up her house. She was getting rid of people who had 59-minute relationships with her. I've talked about 59-minute phone call relationship, the ones who call you and they talk about themselves for 59 minutes, and on the last minute they go, oh, and how are you? You know, so they really don't care. So that's a very good symbol during a Pluto time that you bring those relationships to an end. Pluto is not big about suffering fools gladly. It's not about being ruthless. It can be. It's usually ruthless if you've been putting it off too long. Then it's really ruthless. But she was doing the things she was doing, and what Pluto does when it's around you, it makes you want to want more, it makes you want to be more, and she was making endeavors to be more meaningful in her family. She was trying to get the family to stop shoving her back in the same old mama role that does everything for you. She was doing well. The Neptune in her chart was very strong, and she was doing really well with Neptune, and that's rare. She was doing her spiritual studies. She was realizing more and more that I'm not the driver. I'm not the driver. He's in the back seat. She's in the back seat. She's doing the driving. God got us. And that's the Neptune. I'm just flowing with it. Like if you watched last week's show especially, it was really, really top notch. So she was in sync with that. She was allowing intuition to start to come. She was allowing things to come to her instead of trying to make things happen. So she's successfully riding her Neptune horse. It's like riding all these different horses, these planets, pretty much. Most of the time, I can tell what you're going through before you even know it, or most of the time, I can tell what you're going through, and you act surprised because how should I know it? Well, the reason I should know it is because we're talking about the same thing. It's just you think you're all independent and it's all happening here, and it's not. It's not. And I have tables and programs and lists of where the planets are. And when the planet lines up with you, you should be feeling X, Y, Z and not A, B, C. And if you're feeling A, B, C, then you're in trouble. And if you're on X, Y instead of X, Y, Z, then you're pretty much on track. So if Uranus is on you, it's very common. This woman had Uranus stirring her up, and she was allowing change. She had a history of driving with her brakes on, being very overly cautious, and she was starting to do away with that. She was starting to trust her instincts, starting to let go. That was a very good sign. And she had Saturn on her, and Saturn was very, very, very significant in her chart, and that meant that she was facing the facts. Saturn, oh, we whine and bitch and complain about Saturn. Saturn is, are you going to face the facts or not? Because the facts aren't going to change. That's why Saturn stopped. Boom, brick wall. Boom, brick wall. Oh, today maybe it's a pillow. Boom, brick wall. That's the problem with Saturn. It's not going to become a pillow. It's a brick wall. Boom, ow. Better stop doing that. Now you're getting the idea. So when I add it all up, I see what this person should be doing. In essence, some people are hit by a lot of stuff at once. Some people idle for a while. Some people get bombarded with a lot at once. And I have a basic idea what they should be feeling, what their fights are, how they should be trying. And the ones that are up at bat, taking the next pitch, they do okay. And I map out for them how long it's going to last. Before this reading, Deborah and I were talking. I saw some difficulty in her chart. I noted right away it was a Saturn influence. Talked to her about it. I went into the past with her and saw exactly when Saturn was right on her, was exactly when she was having some physical issues. And now with Saturn starting to move, we see Saturn starting to lighten up. So we found she's very much in sync. Sometimes you are in sync when the planet's hitting you and it's hurting because it's having an effect. See, what I'm looking for are these planets, these are energies in you. Are these energies coming up through you? They might not have a perfect path. They may have links along the way where they get all bunched up. They may have bridges that are out. They may have blockages. You know, none of us have perfect inside energy systems. But sometimes you're okay just because you're feeling it. Now, I used to tell people, I'll give you an example, and I'm going to jump all over the place tonight. That's just how it goes. I'm going to tell people about Uranus. Okay, Uranus is a planet that when it hits you, it should liven you up. And if you're all blocked up, it should really loosen you up. And if you're all blocked up, it could be critical because it'll start cracking its way through, but it will get through. And if you're loosey-goosey, it can be a good time. So I used to tell people, I got a point at saying this. I used to tell people, okay, I see Uranus hitting your chart just by mathematically looking in the computer. Next 4th of July, it's going to hit your chart. And when it does, I'm just going to use a ridiculous concept to get the idea across because Uranus is always off the wall. Next summer, around July 4th, somebody's going to start playing jazz in your basement. What? Somebody's going to start playing jazz in your basement. What do you mean? Well, it's not going to be rock and roll. It's not going to be quiet. It's not going to be June. It's going to be July, and they're going to start playing rock and roll, or jazz, because Uranus is really wild and jazz-like. So they're going all through April, May, March, April, May, June, and July. All of a sudden, hey, what's that sound? And then they're wondering, because it can't be what I said, because everything's got to come from their head. It's the same thing. I just got a way of seeing it. I have no idea how I can see it. I have no idea how these planets work, but they do. So in July, you got 3 options. Here's the fun part. Susan, you're going to like this part. There's 3 options for the person that has the Uranus transit. And I've always used the analogy, Uranus hitting you properly is an example of Mrs. Cleaver coming down the steps playing a saxophone. You know, this conventional uptight woman with her pearls on never does anything that's individual. How are you, Beaver? How are you, Wally? She comes down and all of a sudden she's an individual. That's what Uranus does. Well, when Uranus starts playing jazz in your basement, you got 3 options. Hopefully option 1 happens, which is not that common. You start digging the jazz. Hey, I don't know where it's come from. I don't know, but I like how it feels. And you start letting that jazz come out of your fingers, and it's symbolic of you becoming more festive and less planned, more spontaneous. Second type, much more normal. Who turned that damn jazz down? Who turned that jazz on? Hey, that's kind of cool. You know, it's kind of good. Hey, but would you cool it? You know, and you're kind of 50-50 into it. That's what most people do. But what I was getting at earlier, the third type is the worst type. That's the ones that don't hear any jazz. That's a bad sign. That's a bad sign. You're in trouble with Uranian energy because it's blocked off inside of you. So when you get a person like that, It's usually past life. It could be the parents, but it's usually past life. That person has no ability to be themselves. They have no ability to have their own ideas and express themselves. I remember when Uranus hit me strongly in the 70s, I played guitar a lot. And all of a sudden, I just put the guitar down. I didn't want to play anybody's songs anymore. I wanted to make up songs. And that went on for years, just making up songs, having fun, reading the words on a beer bottle. It puts you on a spontaneous edge. It does it with artists. It does it with singers. So you see that I saw it coming. Now, during the 3 passes of Uranus, which is usually when a planet hits you, it hits you 1 time, 3 times, 5 times, or maybe 7 times it can hit. But it's always an odd number. It's usually 3. A planet goes over, back, and over again. That person who's dull, maybe on their 3rd pass, they're starting to get it. Because that planet has to chew away at your thick skin, your thick defensive walls. So, all Uranus is the real you inside that says, hey, I want to be me. That's what it is. That's why Uranus opposite Uranus at age 42, you get on Route 66 and you get your shades on, you go looking for some chicks while you go out to Las Vegas. You know, the midterm crisis, midlife crisis. Or it could be a midterm crisis, too. It very well could be. Or it could be a woman, too, on that motorcycle. So you can't get rigid. When you see somebody who's really Saturnian or earthbound, doesn't want to make change, they want to stay at home, don't want to take chances, these people are lining up for a stroke or an aneurysm. Because Uranus is going to come and it's going to fry you. And you're going to hear them say things like, I'm beside myself. Something came over me. Say, you know, this energy just pours through you. And you cannot control these energies. You cannot turn the energy down. You're connected to the universe. I'm sorry. You can use it. The worst thing you can do is try to repress it. You can use it and maybe not be too good and flap around on the wing, but at least you're trying. You see, all these energies come through us at different times. And this is why it's so incredibly unbelievable to me that all of us aren't walking around with our own pocket astrologers. We should have astrologers on every corner. We should. Good ones. But there are a lot of bad ones out there. A lot. But they are becoming better and better and better. They're getting better. It's a really hard thing to monitor and to certificate. What's the word? Certify. Certificate, that's kind of good. Certify. See, when you have your own show, you can make up stupid words. Okay, so I zoom back to another woman I've been working with for years. About 10 years. She's very unconscious. Nice woman. I'm not going to say much here. She's in a relationship with a man who's very mean to her. She won't leave. She has no sense of self. She has nothing but problems with relatives. On and on and on. I'm not going to get into many details. But this woman is not doing well astrologically, but at least she's trying. And I keep talking with her, and I got to be very careful not to warn her, but at the same time, I got to warn her. Very difficult, very difficult. Recently, she threw him out. Well, that's like somebody coming in and at least operating on the main organ that needs operated on. You need 9 operations, lady, but we're going to work on the main one first. That's good. Now, she still has a low sense of self, but at least she's gotten rid of the guy in the house that keeps making her feel, you're a bum, you're no good, you're no good. And he's feeding off of that. What do you think's going to happen to him? He's going to go down the tubes. And she now has some promise. She's starting to see the light. She's starting to see, but she's one of those types that suppressed Uranus for years. No, 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 no. And I kept trying to tell her, you've got to get out of a codependent relationship. The number one factor in astrology is getting out of codependent relationships. Number one. Venus doesn't bring you your lover. Pluto doesn't bring you your bedmate. Your intimate soul contact comes to you right after you start dumping your stuff. That's when they come. If I'm trying to hand you a log, Susan, and you got an armful of logs, where am I going to put it? You got to dump the logs, and then I give you one. Oh, it's a nice log. Well, you gotta chill out, even as a 40-year-old astrologer, and realize that she's ready when she's ready. And that is not a cop-out. And Virgos and Scorpios see that as a cop-out, and it's not a cop-out. She's just not ready. Now she's getting more ready. She got him out of the house. Divorce proceedings are starting. She's starting to get some money. She's starting to succeed in areas where, what am I going to do? Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to work. You know. But what she didn't see, and this is why codependency is so dangerous. When you're codependent, you are not alive. And you look around you, people that are codependent. Their job stinks, their body's falling apart, their money's not dependable, their house is falling apart, they're having trouble with their relatives. Yes or no? It's because they're not alive. Because they've had to sell out to belong. Now, I'm not judging it, but I'm saying where it's at. And the biggest problem with codependency is this is how we're taught. We're taught this stuff. We're not taught properly when we're very young. That your relationship may have finished, you kiss it and you appreciate what you had, and you say goodbye. And you let go. So she's got a lot of work to do. Almost any planet that hits her now is going to put a big dent in her side. Because she's so damaged. But that's the really good side, is especially with Pluto, and when you start to give up your codependency, because the reason Pluto gives you hell during a codependency is Pluto's trying to convince you that you have power. If you listen to me, I'll give you power. I don't want the power. I don't want the power. I don't want the power. That's what's going on with the USA. You want to make it simple? Next week is me and Liza all about Pluto the whole time. The Pluto problem since 2008 is that we don't want the big horse. We want to go back to our pony. We've had it so easy through the 50s, through the 60s. What game you watching tonight? I got a Pepsi. I got some chips. Hey. You go to Europe, and these people in Europe, they have these faces on. You go to Europe, and they have seasoning all throughout their genetic makeup. They know the guy next door can invade this country here, and they can invade from here. We're over here, popping bubbles. And so we can ask our German friend here, but I don't think we need to, because she knows, and she's already told us, and it's obvious and clear, that's the United States problem. We don't take things seriously. It's always going to get better. Hit the reset button. Hit the reset button. Okay, so back to other people. So this woman number 2 that I'm talking about, she has very strong past life issues built up, And maybe just getting this guy out of the house will be enough of a load off of her that she will start to progress, and she'll start getting people into her life that are for her, that are behind her, and depends on how bad her karma is. Because if she still thinks she's not worthy, it doesn't matter who comes into her life, it's not going to help. Because one of the number one statements in A Course in Miracles is based upon you're going to get what you think you deserve. You're going to get what you think you deserve. And you got to get clear with that. And that's why I keep working with it. Well, what should I do here? Should I talk to the lawyer? Or should I go here? Should I go? I'm not getting involved with the stuff. I'm telling you how to deal with you. You got to become aware of, do you think you deserve to be slapped? Do you think you deserve to be treated nicely? It's very personal. It takes, what's it called? Brutal self-inquest. Brutal. Get in and find out. If you think you need to be slapped, you're going to get slapped in some way or another. Maybe another car, maybe a person's hand. I can't even finish telling you the rest of the story. Things have gotten so bad with this story. Okay, most people have not gone to that extreme. Now, the other types of people that I read for are doing really, really well. I don't know how to explain it, but it seems to me like the Holy Spirit is sending me people more and more. There are so many people now, especially women, who are really liberating now. And I go back to 82, my radio show, 83, 84, and I talked about liberation. They had no idea what I was talking about. Things have changed so much. We're doing so well. And thank God the women are leading the way now. Thank God the women are leading the way, because the men are just about, I'm not going to even put a word there. We know what the men have done. Penis waving, penis wars. Mine's bigger than yours. Saber waving. It's always the same old answer. And we put this poor woman through this crap at the Congress, and everybody sitting in the room is a man. Is a man. Well, I got something to tell you about this judge and about this woman that came up in this new Supreme Court. This just started. They think they slipped one in here. It's just starting. And I told you a long time ago, the KGOP, I told you, the KGOP was dissolving in March. I've been watching it for 12 years. They had their Neptune return. They're still talking. They're still an official body with KGOP around their symbol, but they're dead. They're dead. There's no more soul in them. Look at McConnell and look for the beating heart and look for the caring, deep look in the eyes. There's nothing there. They're going out the window, and they're symbolic of the patriarch. And thank God these women are pissed now. And this is exactly when Iris makes her introduction. And I'm reading a lot about Eris. I'm trying to get up to speed, but she's so big and she's really a lot like Pluto, and I'm really trying to differentiate the two. But the one thing that's interesting about Eris that I'm learning is she's much more pro-violence. If she doesn't get her way, she will use violence to get to what she needs. She's a sister of Mars. She's big time, and she will not be counted out. So she's going to be on the show, the subject, on November 1st, when 4 experts are going to be talking about her. So when I'm talking about people and you come to see me, it's just unbelievable how anymore they're coming at the right time, and I know what to listen for. I ask about your job. I ask about the mate. I ask about the car. I ask about the kids. I ask about the turning person. I can see in front of me by moving the wheels around. I could see when you should be going through these new parts of you coming up through you, right? I could see it. And I go back to the dates when that new shoot came up through you, and I ask what happened, and you say, oh, I go, good. And I ask you about this other time when this new shoot came popping up through you, and you went, oh, it was really great and exciting. I went to Europe, and, you know, I found out these new parts of myself, and I asked about this other part, and I saw a shoot coming up through you, and nothing happened. So I work on that one. We find out what the hell happened there. Oh, that's when I broke my ankle. Hey, you broke your ankle because you didn't let the shoot come through. I'm working on this in my new book. If you're hurt, it almost always happens exactly after you have repressed yourself. A wreck, a fire, a murder, somebody telling you off. It can be minor, it can be major. I have to be really sure of myself before I put it in print. But almost always, crap comes to us because we have not allowed ourselves out. We've said no to the self. We've talked about it a lot on this show, about the little self says to the adult, I want to go have ice cream, I want to go to the playground, and the adult says no. Oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. You can do it once, you keep doing it, what do you think is going to happen to a little child? I'll tell you the truth, about 70% of the people I talk to, I'm going to just make a guess, 65, 70% had parents that were not available. Dad was home, he was asleep on the chair, or dad left with another woman. Mom was here, but she was so upset, or she was a good mom. People have good relationships. People have wonderful parents. But about 70% of the people that I read for and ask about, and I ask everybody, about 70% of those people should not have had children. And I look now, and I look at these little pregnant people, and I go, oh my God, what are you doing? Look at the world around you. Think. That's another issue, isn't it? Delicate, tough issue. Is it about you and you want to be a mommy? You think of what the kids are going to be breathing and what the stuff they have to go through trying to get a job? Anyhow, that's another issue, isn't it? In the era of Eris. So when I'm talking with people, after a while I know what to listen for. And that's why I spend so much time. Tell me about your job. The job tells me so much, because if you're floating, you're going to do pretty well at work. I mean, it's kind of going along smoothly. What I'm listening for is when trouble starts. Here's this guy, been a nice boss to me for 10 years. All of a sudden, he's getting really harsh with me. I don't care what's happening to him. You have drawn him into your life in this new episode this way. Why is he becoming mean? It's usually because you don't want to be there anymore and you won't respect it and leave. So he will force you out, and then you will get what you want, which is out. In jobs, there are usually 2 or 3 things that happen. They're problematic. Jealousy, and I'm not going to bring up the sign that is the queen of jealousy, the king and queen of jealousy, because it's really clear. A critical boss who just you can't please. It's much more rare that you've got a mean boss who's trying to undermine you or trying to set you up. But usually what's happening in the job is you are not being recognized for your talents. And it's usually because you have not recognized them for yourself. And I have so many clients that went to mom and dad with the flower. They went to mommy with the flower, and mommy crushed the flower. And they went to daddy and said, I had a home run, and daddy ain't even listening. And that people have no idea how crushing that is to a little one. How crushing it is. Because what the child learns is, I'm not going to offer it up anymore. Because the child would rather fail by not trying than to get crushed again. That's what I'm looking for. And all my readings, see, people love to talk, and that's okay, but you can't get them talking about other people. You want to get to conversation about them. And a lot of people don't even know how to talk about them because they're so obsessed with how's mom feeling, how's dad feeling. I start to talk about them, and they go, So I ask the question, mom and dad alive, what sign are they? Sometimes I look at the chart of the mom or dad just to get an idea. But I remember the day I had a guy in my office about 6, 7 years ago. I said to him, between the ages of 5 and 15, when you were with your dad, how did you feel? It's always the same question. Between the ages of 5 and 15, how did you feel? I don't know what I don't want to know what you thought. I don't want to know what his excuse was. How did you feel when daddy was next to you? And this guy looked almost like there was a painting on my wall. He just stared at me for about 5 minutes. He had absolutely no idea how he felt when daddy was there. That was a big deal. So you gotta learn to listen for what's a big deal. And the reason why is he never had the luxury of feeling when dad was there, because it was always so bad. He was always getting his butt kicked over something. So it was a matter of, what do I got to do to not get slapped? Then after a while of talking, we finally started to realize you got to be gentle, you got to be patient. And after a while, he'll start to say, you know, it kind of sucked. I'll say, you know what? It kind of sucked. Well, you're not telling me how you felt. Well, I found kind of scary. Well, why'd you feel scary? Well, because he beat me. Now I got it. But see how long that took to get to the surface? Because you can't blame the guy. He had to learn to repress it to survive. And maybe that little discussion with me, I don't know. I just trust that God's working through me, doing whatever he needs to do at that moment. I'll let it go. When the person leaves, I'll let it go. Maybe that person went on, and maybe that was the beginning of him starting to really realize how bad things had been. And what's interesting is a lot of people who admit to themselves that they hated their father, they also start to realize how much they loved him. And people are really shocked to see that you got both. And yeah, you can hate him with black clouds and love him to death. Those are valid feelings. But I'm trying to find you. Where did you go? So my job is, this is one of the few times that I use the sun sign, because I'm trying to get that spark of the sun sign to come alive. And usually that spark, if it's anything, it's very much oriented towards how the sun sign is described. And I'll look at the rest of the chart. But if you're a Cancer in there, I want to get you out and start telling me about your sensitive feelings, because they're real important to you. If you're a Leo, I want you to come out and start talking about your creations and how you're happy. And did anybody give you any applause? And that's what I'm trying to ignite. I'm trying to ignite it. So I've talked to you much about blockages. That's what we're doing in those situations. We're getting the client who's ready to look at them, and that's why they're with me. They're ready to start seeing, oh, that was a blockage. And what is a blockage, Mr. Pluto? A blockage is something that stops you from evolving. That's what Pluto's about. And that's why with Eris, I'm not sure yet. Because Eris is like Pluto, and there's very deep energies coming up, but I'm not sure what she really wants. I know she wants fairness. I know she's more violent than Pluto. Hard to imagine that. You see, that's what I'm listening for. And the person doesn't have to come out and perform like Cirque du Soleil, but they're making progress. You know, they're starting to break up old relationships that don't work. They're starting to defy the church that they're involved with because it's just a lot of words and talk, and it's not really church in the sense of them finding spiritual connection inside. And they're starting to find with Uranus the ability to allow themselves to come to life. And with Saturn, they're starting to accept their responsibilities. They're starting to accept their charges in life. So in all those things, I'm usually giving like a teacher might give an 85 in one subject and a 74 in another. You know, but more and more and more and more, I'm really seeing people that are succeeding all throughout. People are really coming out. They are, thank God, and I think a lot of it is due to Eris. I do. I think a lot of it is due to Pluto. When we talk about Pluto next week, it's going to be very difficult. It's a very deep subject. So I think you're getting the idea of what I'm talking about. I think you're getting the idea. Now, one of the hard parts of this. Sometimes you see people crashing. And you can't judge. And sometimes they're going off the cliff. Sometimes they're going down the tubes. Sometimes they don't want to live anymore. And you can't judge. Because you don't know what that soul needs. And you got to get your ego out of the way. If, oh, well, I'm a Aussie inherit. You got to get back in the family and get your 1.2 pets. Live in your little pretty house. No. Suicide might be the very best thing for that person. You can't talk that way. But some people are just done. They're just done. They're done. You don't know, pushing them on further might make it worse. You just don't know. But you got to remember and respect that they're coming to you because you're holy. One of your jobs, Ram Dass says, might be to deliver some smack in the face bad karma. One of your jobs might be to insult them. I remember one of the times I was with a therapist when I was very young, and he came up to me and says, you know, you're a pain in the ass. And I said, oh my God, you know, therapists don't talk that way, people. And I went home and I realized, well, I got to admit, this Taurus guy let me have it. And what he's talking about was exactly right. And I was being a pain in the ass. And I admired it. I admired that. So you just never know. You just never know. And one thing I will say to you, because I know you all do counseling in different ways. I don't care what you're doing. You all do counseling in different ways. Trust what's coming through you. Trust what's coming through you. I sat down tonight. I have no idea what I'm talking about. No idea. I had some general ideas about this, but I wanted to talk about it. The idea came to me from Spirit, and I think it's good. But the trouble gets in when you start the arguing. You start the arguing. Well, maybe I should have said this, and maybe I said that. And did you see what he did when I said that? Did you see what I did? Stop it. Say what you gotta say because you have love in your heart. You care about the person. They can sense that. When you have love in your heart and care about them, it will shape your words. Right or wrong? Isn't that right? Okay, I think I'm going to end it right here. I'm going to end my part of it. I'm going to leave the YouTubers on with the rest of us. I'm glad you're with us. We're going to go to open discussion because I just feel that. In case you're not used to this, every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, we tape this. you can join us any Thursday night. You don't have to be an astrologer. You don't even have to be brilliant. And you just you can just type into Google Astrology Unplugged. That'll get you there. And you'll see the links, and you can join us at 8 o'clock Eastern. And then every night I record it, and I transfer it, upload it to YouTube on Fridays. So if you go to my name, Rick DiClemente, on YouTube, you'll see episode 1 through episode 100. And now, very soon, I'm going to put a list on my webpage what each subject was like. So I want to open this up for general talk with you, and I'd like for you to stay on subject, at least about the subject we're talking about, the sensitivity that you need when you're talking to others, the scales that you use in your mind when you determine somebody's on track or not. Don't you get pissed off when you go to a doctor and you don't have a sense at all whether you're on track or not? That pisses me off. I mean, are you looking at my case? Are you seeing me as a whole? What? You just gave me this prescription? That doesn't tell me anything about my trip on this planet in a body. I'm doing much more as an astrologer. So our physical doctors could learn a lot from this dialogue too. Okay, everything's being recorded. If you would like to, just raise your hand. I'll point to you, and we'll talk about anything you'd like to talk about that is related. And I'm going to go out on a limb and start with Elke, because Elke always has to be first. Come on. What are you thinking, Elke?
I wasn't here part of the
okay.
way. So,
you got the idea.
what did you want to know?
I want to know what you heard tonight, how you felt about what you heard. I know you're very much into medical astrology. You're very much into comparing many, many different healers and astrologers. You've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. What are your thoughts?
Well, being unawakened and unaware is probably the biggest problem around, and like especially when you're talking about the doctors, that's one of my missions, is to educate them.
Excuse me, he wasn't lying. He said he was going to join us. Mr. Poplin, hello. Are you with us from Iowa?
I can't hear you yet.
He's not on yet. He's coming. He said he was going to join in, and I couldn't believe him. He really is. He has been on our show twice as a guest, and he's a wonderful hypnotist and a regressive hypnotist. Are you with us, Stephen? He's still trying to get linked.
He's trying to get connected.
Go ahead, Elke.
Yeah, that they're unaware. Like to deal with a person that is unaware is the hardest thing ever. Yeah. Because you just don't seem to be able to connect with their soul or who is really inside. And sometimes those people are so deep inside of themselves that you almost can't get at them.
I have my own method. Well, what do you do when you find somebody that's unaware? What are your measures that you go to next?
Well, if I have a chart and I know what's going on, then that's helpful, right? Mm-hmm. But if they're resistant or if, then you just have to say, okay, well, you either come back another time or mm-hmm. You have to let people go.
Well, what I do when somebody who is unaware is I usually find that they're aware of something, but they're calling it something else. So
right, they're projecting.
I got to go to their level and talk about it then. I think we got a smile on Mr. Stephen Poplin now, so he must be on with us. Thank you, Elke. I'm going to go right to him. I appreciate that. Stephen, I thought you were joking, but I had a feeling you were not. I'm so glad you joined us. Stephen has been on with us twice as a regressive hypnotist and lived in Iowa and just marvelously talented in that area. It would be good to go to you right now because I've been talking tonight about what is it that I'm with when I'm with a client that I feel like you leave the room and you got a bunch of check marks. You're on the way, astrologically. Or I say to somebody, well, you're doing okay here with these Pluto things in here, but this Uranus part we need to really focus on. And I'm sure you have manifold reports on this with all your different stories in your books about your clients. What are your thoughts?
You're talking about if you're connecting with.
I'm talking about what is it in your mind as a hypnotist or regressionist? What is it in your mind that when they're leaving, you say to them, thumbs are up, and here's why? Or you say to yourself, well, thumbs aren't really up. What are they doing that you have found that you're still worried about or you're pleased about?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, true.
Yeah,
I've got, of course, the two different hats. One is as an astrologer, and then I'm pretty much doing all of the work. I am a source of the information and giving that information out to the clients. And all the whole time, I'm checking in. I make a statement. Is this true? This here seems to be what I see here. Does that ring a bell for you? So all the while I'm getting this feedback. So by like halfway through, I know I'm on the right track. But when I do hypnosis and past life regressions, typically at the end of the session, they are, spaced out. And
yeah,
so it's actually hard to find out exactly how they're doing. And I can also say that when I do a very deep double session, 2 hours one day, followed up on the next day with another 2 or 3 hours, that first session, they are fairly exhausted. They're quite tired, and then they'll sleep quite well. And so then I don't really find out how they really digested everything until the intake the following day. And then sometimes it's not until 2 or 3 days later with an email that I find out, oh, okay, wow, I put this together. I had this dream. I got this synchronicity. I now remember who you meant when we were trying to find out that particular person or that particular issue in my life. And now it comes to me. Sometimes, days later. But again, that's the difference between when I'm working with people in a trance state and then giving them, when I'm in a trance state as a tarot reader or as an astrologer. And then I think it's fairly clear how I'm doing and if they're engaged. Again, I think that might be, this how I actually started out with doing astrology readings is I would, and I did this for like 4 years. I looked at a chart, I read it, and looked at all the different meanings of it. And then I would say, according to the book, this is what, this particular, a planet in a particular sign and a house, or this is a particular square or a trine. And what do you think about that?
Well, I think you're right on track, and I think that really points to the fact when you're new at it, you have a real tendency to say this, oh, I must be wrong. You say this, you don't get a reaction, oh, I must be wrong. But that's really the wrong way to go about it. You'll learn that eventually. Usually, planets and signs have so many archetypal sides to them. Say what you've got to say. Don't be so quick to swallow your words and be like a turtle and go back inside. Let it resonate with them. Because a lot of times, and it's not the ego defending itself, a lot of times you're just talking in a different language that they don't understand. And most people, if you are honest and you have the ability, the desire to serve them, they won't get defensive on you. They won't get defensive. They want to work. They want to reveal themselves. They understand you're there to help and they appreciate it. And that's really important, that when you pick out one side of the archetype and they go, nah, it's not really ringing a bell, as time goes on, you won't have that happen as often. You really won't. And then let them talk. And that might cue you in on how to go to a different part of the archetype. Also, when you're reading for people, the reading has a life of its own. You are not the reader. You are not the reader. The karmic state of that person mixed with the karmic state of you one moment ago, mixed together, forms the reading length. And he's exactly right. Once you start to get the glazed look, you better start backing off a little bit. Thank you, Stephen. And before I cut back to Elke, I do want to let the audience know that Stephen is just a wonderful therapist in so many ways. And I want to share with you his 2 books that are out now. They're both part 1 and 2 of Inner Journeys, Cosmic Sojourns. They're very much like the books by Michael Newton, his work where you've heard about lives in between lives. Stephen did a lot of work at the Edgar Cayce Foundation. So there's a lot there, and I'll encourage you to go back through my 100 episodes, and you'll see 2 of them, which where he was the guest, and hopefully for the 3rd time and many more. Thank you, Stephen. Yes, Elke, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to finish kind of and say that it's not you that does the reading, but if you don't care, then the reading is worthless.
Oh, if you don't care, you're going to get butchered.
But if you, like, there's so many astrologers out there that are in for the money or whatever, or the fame or the fortune, and that's eventually going to backfire. But it's the same with the doctors. If you don't care, you're not going to make a difference. You have to care. You have to truly care about people.
You're exactly right. And another thing I've noticed, when you're young at reading, there's a tendency to think, I've got to read 6 people. I've got to read 7 people. After a while, you get a little older and you back off a little bit. You don't worry so much about the number. God's taking care of you, just like he said he would. He just is. Okay, Miss Severe, you got any ideas tonight? What's on your mind?
I think I am also a medium and a psychic, and I do readings as well, and spirit portraits and so forth. I need to care about being in service to what Elke said, but I need to be absolutely neutral about the information that comes through because I can't influence it.
You're exactly right.
I can't deeply care that I get a positive response to this question.
Right.
Or, I need to be totally open and tell people, listen, I've got to give you what I'm getting, and this is what I'm getting.
Right.
People come to you, they know what the story is. They know why they're there. They know what they've been doing. They know what they've been up to and not up to. They know how much they can slide past you trying to blame their mate, or trying to blame their kids.
Right.
A lot of people, you just need to show them a little bit of compassion. They want someone to understand, this is really hard for me. An understanding ear can go a long way. And then people are so resilient, and they can, like a camel, go a long way with not much water. Then they get a breath and they go, well, maybe I'm not so bad after all. And then they see a different point of view. I've always said that, and I did an article on this once, there are 3 things I want in an astrology reading. I want you to go home with a different viewpoint of yourself that's not so negative. I want you to develop this stronger between you and yourself, because that's really the best thing that can happen. And I can't remember number 3 because I'm getting older. But this is the important one, because you go home and you got this. What else can you want? What is more valuable than this? Go ahead, Susan.
In doing mediumship, when there's a good, strong connection with someone in spirit, the client feels their presence too. And that's key and important, because the purpose of that reading is to let you know that we don't die and that your loved one is okay. I mean, really, the rest is details.
Very good. Thank you very much. I would like to try something else, Susan. With the rest of you that don't talk a lot usually, do you have any questions to any of us who do read a lot? Questions about getting readings? Questions about readings you're at? it bothers us greatly when we hear people tell us they went to a reader and the reader gave them a curse. That's how I got into astrology. This reader in 1971 gave me this big curse, and I said, wait a minute. I'm going to just put you on hold. I'm going to get the books and find out myself if that's true. And I found out she shouldn't be talking to anybody. But that's very troublesome, and there are some unscrupulous ones out there. Anybody with questions? Karen? Susan agrees? Anybody? Just raise your hand. Yes, Marilyn, dear. Go ahead.
Well, I guess, I had a reading with you, Rick, and it was very good. I've had other readings before also. I would really like for people to go deeper. I mean, the readings seem to be pretty general, not as deep as I would like.
Well, that's not easy to do the first time. It's not because the reader doesn't have a lot of information on you. The deeper readings I have with my clients are people that have come back to me more than once.
Okay, I'll come back.
Oh yeah, you can go deep, 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 deep. Speaking of deep, 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 let's turn Stephen on here, and he'll tell you about going deep.
Funny. Yeah, I've had experiences, from the very superficial to the very profound and disturbing. And I remember one time where this guy sets up an appointment with me, and within the first 3 minutes talking with him, he says, "Okay, I'm a Leo, and I'm dating this Taurus. What do you think?" Well, I think I need a bit more information.
Yeah. You got a Chevy, and he's got a Ford. Really?
Yeah. And then there was this other time where, and this is the topic of either liking or respecting the client. And about 1/4 through a reading with someone, I really figured out that this person really loved nature, the outdoors, and was a rather physical fellow. And then when I mentioned that, he says, "Oh, yes, I love to go out and kill animals." And I'm thinking, I cannot ethically be on this guy's side. I'm sorry, sport.
Now, I don't know how. I don't know how Elke, Marilyn, Stephen do such things, because I've always got the chart, and I've learned, don't look at the face. The face is not necessarily telling you the truth. Look at the chart. Listen to the chart. It's telling. I've learned there's so much egg on my face. Now, I don't necessarily know how the psychics do it, because that's tough stuff, where you just go with.
Yes. But looking at that chart, I can't remember exactly what I saw, but I think it was something in the realm of Jupiter in Aries in the 3rd house, and with Mars rising. And I said, you are a physical person. You love to go out. You love to probably nature. You probably love the wilderness. And he affirmed all of that, and then added his extra piece of
I'll bet you, from what I'm learning, he had a significant errors too.
Exactly. It's like,
I'll bet you.
That's too much information for me.
Yeah, boy, that's tough. Thank you, Stephen. Karen has a statement or question. Go ahead.
Rick, I was thinking about what you said about, for some people, the best decision they can make is to move on. And as most of you know, in the last, I guess it's closer to 4 years now, I've lost 2 people in my life that were close to me. And the circumstances were 180 degrees different. My father he had resolved a lot of things. We had talked about a lot of things. He knew his his physical body was flat, just wearing out on him. He was so weak that he almost couldn't talk because his heart, he didn't have the energy to talk. But his passing was very calm, very quiet, very peaceful, and just, a natural transition. Whereas the other man in my life, it was like, and I've helped a lot of people pass on because I did a lot of hospice nursing, but he was totally confused. I mean, it was so different because he wouldn't do any of the things I suggested. He wouldn't go to the doctor. He wouldn't do XYZ. And he looks at me 2 days before he just collapsed and says, I feel like I'm going to die. Just.
Well, let me add something here. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. Your boyfriend was very much a Taurus. And I'm not going to pigeonhole any sign. But in general, Taurus men think in a very small world.
Mm-hmm.
They're happy there. They're content there. You go hang out with them and you're really pleased. But a lot of them just don't believe that there's anything out there beyond their little living room. And all of a sudden they run smack into, wow, I'm going to die. And that's a real shock. Does that make sense to you?
Well, it does in the sense that he would do none of the things to stop it. I mean, like I said, I've been with a lot of people, but he was in like total denial that he was really going to die.
Yeah, but you're the type of person, there's something to do, you go do it. You're very preventative. You got this, you make a list, you go to the store, you're preventative. He wasn't that way. He wanted to sit at the fireplace, right? Sit at the fireplace.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's different.
He had been very much more preventative until Daddy died. And it was real interesting. And I think, and I don't have any way of knowing this, but I almost think that he thought Daddy's was so peaceful that might not be such a bad thing. I don't know, but that's sort of, as I look back on it, I could, because Daddy's was it was just so simple and just so smooth. And
so your point is that some people are better off just letting go, right?
I guess I just saw, when you made that statement, I saw the stark contrast between the two.
That makes good sense. Let's see what Elke has to say. Thank you. Elke, go ahead.
Sometimes there's most of the time there's a backstory that we do not understand. My husband, I was flipping mad at him the whole time while he was sick. I was furious that he made himself die. And when I went and saw a psychic after a really good one after he passed away, he came through and he said he actually died because he wanted to liberate me. He couldn't stand watching me being hurt by his family. And it took me by surprise, and all that anger just went, oh my God, so who, and I learned that we have such small minds. We do never, ever get the big picture. And we just have to that's why we don't judge. We have to let spirit take care of things and trust that we are good where we are,
Very, very good statement. And I want to say something before I go to Erica. Thank you so much, Elke. And what Elke's saying here, I want to turn this over to Stephen, because I've had 2 regressions with Stephen, separated by 18 years. Okay? I know he would prefer if you drive to Iowa and get a live reading rather than over the internet. And that's a bit of a drive for some of you. But I'm telling you, this guy is very rare. He understands what's going on. He understands where you're coming from. This is not hodgepodge. Stephen has a remarkable ability to understand how your soul is floating here, and it might want to go here, and he can stick with you without judgment. And Stephen, I don't know how you do it, but you sure do a great job.
Thanks a lot, Rick. That's really great.
You are welcome.
Yeah. So I was inspired both by what Elka said and Karen, and finding that they follow each other in discussion. You know, Elka, the spirit knows, you know, when that person told you about that particular perspective, this was something that your conscious mind did not know. But when she told you that, you knew that was true, right? And then it was like a big release. You know, that was really spirit talking, and I really find that lovely.
What a wonderful evening this is turning into because I let go of my plans, Deborah. Thank you, Stephen. We're going to go to Erica.
I had one more thing to say about to Karen. Yeah, and so with Karen, with your story, I also had this sense of spirit guiding these two different people, and I think it was your father who passed away first, right? Yeah. So he, in that respect, let's say in the cosmic scheme of things, might have said, "I will choose to go first to show your partner later how you can die well."
Very good. Very good.
And I felt, you know, very inspired with that.
Okay, now hold on a second. Thank you very much. We're backing up here. We're going to thank you, Stephen. We're going to go Erica, then Deborah. Erica, go ahead.
I don't know if this is a short question or a long question,
It's
but
all right. Go ahead.
the question is, you know, like when you're, you know, there to listen to the person and you're there to help them, and you're there to, you know, create rapport so that they can feel comfortable and everything. How do you keep your emotions out of it when, you know, either they seem to be unwilling to hear what you're telling them, or you just feel like your emotions are getting involved? And
You mean for people who are crossing over?
No, I mean, like if you're giving somebody a reading or you're trying to counsel them and you're telling them things, oh, you've got this in your chart or something about, and they just, you know, they're off somewhere else, and you start feeling your own emotions getting involved, and then you want to kind of chase after it and kind of insist. How do you?
You got to get your feelings out of the way.
How do you stop that?
You got to get your feelings out of the way.
But how do you do that? I mean, how does each
This is not about you. It's not about you. It's about them. And you've got to work through that.
Yeah,
it's not about you.
I know that, but I'm just saying, are there any tips on how to do that?
Well, let me take a second. Let me take a second before I go to Deborah, and let's go back to Stephen Poplin.
Oh,
please try that question on.
Yeah, Erica, I was wondering, are you talking about you as a consultant, you as an astrologer, giving a session for someone and then getting pulled emotionally into the situation? Yeah?
In any kind of counseling, astrology or any other kind of counseling.
I see. Yeah. Well, I must admit that there's been many a time that I've had a good cry with my client, and we're both emoting at the same time, and I don't feel too bad about that. But also, if I lose track of the purpose in the middle of my emotions, then then I'm not going to be a very good.
Yeah, you can't be about yourself. It's got to be about her. Susan, I'll be with you in 1 second. We're going to go to Deborah now. Thank you, Erica. Go ahead, Deborah.
Okay, I have a couple of observation, comment kind of things, and then something for Stephen. So I think the worst kind of reading is one that's full of astrobabble and where they tell you, you have this here and that there, and then, you know, by that time, I think if you're any good at astrology, you can spot a couple things at the most and really touch somebody or reach them in a way that they weren't expecting. I had that experience at once when it didn't involve a chart. So I hate to get away from charts, but I was on at a conference in Phoenix, and a friend of mine was at the same conference. We blew the pop stand. She found this woman named Sharon something Ansara, a woman who said she had had a brain injury and she quit her corporate job. And anyway, I laid on a table. Her cat got on top of me. She was walking around, and all of a sudden she said to me, "Tell me what happened with your father when you were 19 years old." And I actually had to stop and think about it because many years had passed, but my father died when I was 19. And after that, I was like putty in her hands, and you know, and it prompted me to pursue hypnosis, to pursue astrology, to find other people with that ability and that gift. So
Susan said you had a CAT scan.
So in a way it was, but that cat was so
calm.
So Stephen, my question for you, my curiosity was piqued when you had the client who told you he liked to kill animals.
Oh, God.
I wonder if there wasn't something in his chart that you could have pulled, if you will, to get him to figure out, well, why does he like to kill animals? Why does he connect the out of doors with an opportunity to kill animals? So I feel like you might have missed an opportunity. I understand your revulsion, but you might have missed an opportunity to explore that with him and maybe even get him to, you know, reflect more on his own need to do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I only had enough time to tell only the first part of that story. And so I really didn't miss the opportunity. I then, because I'm a past life regressionist besides an astrologer, then I can immediately reflect upon, very likely, I don't know, but very likely, we may be talking about a hunter-gatherer past life, and that may be like an archetype within that is in pursuit of something that perhaps in another time, another era, was a very valuable thing to bring home, you know, animals, food for the family, for the tribe. But I then posed the question, you know, rhetorically, you know, and now we are in another time, we are in another age, and one can, you know, go to the supermarket.
I had a guy once at a party tell me that he was a Catholic priest. He said he liked abusing little boys, and the police knew about it, and the Catholic higher-ups knew about it, and they moved him up onto some hillside where he reads for 7 nuns once a day. He does mass for 7 nuns once a day, and that's it. And I was so repulsed by it, I didn't know what to do. I just took the next person because I didn't know what I could do. But anyhow, thank you, Deborah. Go on, Susan. So you had some things you wanted to say?
Yeah, briefly to the question about how do you stay out of it emotionally. You have to prepare for a reading when you're doing the psychic reading or mediumship. I'm assuming there's a lot of preparation as well for astrology.
Not like you guys.
No, yeah.
Not like you guys. You guys are really good. Great big doors open, and I feel like I'm real tight with my astrology gurus, whoever they are. But you guys got all kind of questionable doors open. It can be kind of scary.
Well, I don't think it's scary at all, but I find that my self that would be repulsed or interested or whatever takes a step to the side while the reading is going on. I'm watching, more or less, in a very real way. And to Stephen's situation, I've never had one just like it at all. However, as you were discussing it, the first thing I got was, this is a past life experience. This was a guy who was a hunter. There's a lot tied in with his identity as a person who is, tough. I get German connection with all of this as well. And I'm being made to feel that if I were the person doing that reading, I feel strongly I would have been led to talk about why this is the one that's coming up now, and what's the integration process, and what about that past life is significant here and now, and that's where we would have gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Stephen, what do you do when you go towards territories that are a little bit dark and encounter beings that are frightening, etc.?
Well, as a Scorpio, I welcome such things.
Good answer.
Let's dig deeper. Tell me more. Yeah, and if you don't tell me more, I'll put you into a trance and find out.
Oh, what a really good answer that was. Yeah.
But I wanted to say also something to Deborah. You had that very, of course, significant time of your father dying when you were 19. And so then I would be asking, your lunar nodes, and are there some really strong, hard aspects to your lunar nodes? Mm-hmm. Because that would be a 19-year cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what she picked up on. And the truth be told, I mean, I was at least in my 40s when this happened.
It's the nodes.
Between 19 and 47 or whatever I was. I mean, I really had to stop and think about, but I'm like, how did she pick that up?
That's the nodes returning.
It's the nodes, yeah. That's where she got the number, I'm guessing.
Yeah, sometimes you got to use astro lingo. Sometimes you get by without it. But when it's all astro lingo, you really get the glazed look real fast. Any other questions tonight? Elke, go ahead.
I just have a comment about last week. It was very interesting, and synchronicity came in. Yeah, Stephen, you weren't here last week, but we had Rick had Nick Arandes there, and he very much talked about the Course of Miracles and the duality-based living. Like the God mind and the ego mind and all that. And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, I get it, but how do I get there? How do I get to the other side?
You get there by it's always there by I'm going to paraphrase what Hawkins says and what Nick says. You get there, you're already there. You just stop going elsewhere. You stop filling your mind up with all this stuff that's non-peace. If he says anything in his book, he says, choose peace. Let the stuff go. And the mind wants to say, well, I got to do this, and I got to work here, and I got to do this and that. Let that stuff go. That's what he's talking about. Let it go. And what's left is the peace. And it's not just peace, it's ultimate knowing.
But my mind is like, I have 100,000 people. Well, whatever.
It doesn't matter. You got that powerful Jupiter in Gemini. It doesn't matter, because look at Hawkins. Hawkins broke through to a quiet mind as a Gemini after 50 years of psychiatry. You can do it because your inner self has to get the taste first. Your inner self has to taste that bliss that is out there beyond thought before the mind starts to realize, I don't want to do anymore. Because all the mind does, Elke, is struggle.
Yeah, I know, but I wanted to say some more because I ended up having a synchronistic meeting with a friend, and she had studied the Course of Miracles too, and she's like, "Oh, just go to the white room." I'm like, "Oh, what a nice image to go to a white room."
Everybody's got different ways, yeah.
Yeah, but that helped me. It was kind of a bridge.
That's wonderful.
You know?
Like Hawkins says, if you get the clouds out of the way, the sun is there. You allow it to happen. That's the difference. You allow it to happen instead of something working to make it happen, build this construct. You allow it to happen. And we're in a society where everything is struggle and strain and buy this and buy that. Hurry, hurry, hurry. And then you see those old timers that are real peaceful, you know. They're sitting on the rocking chair. And they're just allowing things to go by. Tonight, I hope everybody's done. We're going to say goodbye to the YouTubers. You're welcome, as well as everybody at the same time. Thank you for tuning into Astrology Unplugged. It's been a really nice, comfortable evening. Remember now, next week will be Eliza Jane Brown and me talking about the Pluto entrance into Capricorn in 2008, going back to about 2005 as we prepared for it. Now that we're 20 years into it and we've got 5 more years to go, what do we see ahead? But it's the planet that's been stirring up a lot of stuff. We'll be going into that. So we'll see you next week at 8 o'clock on Thursday on Astrology Unplugged to talk about Pluto. Good evening, everybody. Thank you.